Welcome everyone back to Weekly Weather Updates, and this evening we'll have a look at the latest from the GFS, the GEM, the ECMWF, the ECMWF Ensembles, and then we'll have a look at the GFS Ensembles and finish up with the UKMO Run as well. We're seeing a lot of sort of flip-flopping in the temperatures at the moment. We could be seeing some very warm temperatures for the start of next week, but by the end of next week, we could be in a direct northerly with some chilly polar air over the top of the country. So we're going to go through the models in a minute and see how that does evolve. But do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and do remember to follow on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Talking of northerly winds and some colder conditions, make sure you check out my latest winter look ahead. So the second winter look ahead yesterday afternoon, so do go and check that out if you haven't already. Very interesting seeing what's happening up in the stratosphere at the moment. So we do have a look at the latest GFS. You can see at the moment we have got a bit of a northwesterly airflow, and we have seen a cold front spread through the country. Now, this has brought chillier air to most areas, especially for northern England, into Scotland as well, and we've even seen a bit of snow over the tops of the mountains, but no, not really to any sort of civilized areas. But many areas, even if it hasn't been particularly cold, you might have noticed a bit of a chill in the air, simply because that air mass is a good couple degrees colder, and overnight tonight it could drop down to mid-single digits for many, if not towards freezing in a few rural spots. However, as the low pressure out in the Atlantic starts to arrive by sort of Saturday into Sunday, we get a push of really quite warm Atlantic air, and we could be seeing potentially in the east for Monday, Tuesday, we could be seeing temperatures getting up to maybe 20 degrees in the day, and overnight hardly dropping below 15 degrees. We'll have a look at the UKMO Run at the end of the video, and that will show us the predicted 2-meter temperatures. But that's simply because the air mass is so warm. However, where we do see rain, cloud, and the stronger winds, it's not going to be feeling particularly warm at all, probably quite miserable and a little bit muggy as well. This low pressure eventually does start to edge through. So, start of the week, really quite a warm air mass. However, as this low eventually starts to clear, by the end of the week, towards Friday into Saturday, we're in a direct northerly wind. And you can see isobars going all the way up towards Svalbard, towards Scandinavia, and up towards the North Pole, with a bit of northern blocking over towards Greenland, allowing this northerly wind to take control. Now, it doesn't spread through massively cold air through the whole country. However, the 0-degree isotherm gets through everywhere, which is going to mean daytime temperatures going to be dropping down into low teens, if not high single digits, or even mid-single digits for some areas further northwards. We could be seeing snow in Scotland, especially over the mountains and hills, but even to moderate hills, you can't rule out a few showers of a wintry nature overnight, and there will be the possibility of overnight frosts, even in sort of northern England, and many frost hollows as well. However, that northerly wind really only lasts about 24 to 48 hours before low pressure does come in back off the Atlantic. This is where the uncertainty really does pick up around day 10. And you can see the GFS doing something really weird with it building up a bit of a Eastern European or Scandinavian high, starting to try and build in cooler easterly winds, battling the Atlantic low pressure systems, trying to bring very unsettled conditions. We'll have a look at the other models in a second, and they do show a bit more of an Atlantic theme. So a bit weird seeing that Scandinavian high build up. But of course, it is one sort of possible run. We'll have to see what happens. So if we do have a look at the GM, you can see at the moment the colder air mass spreading through, and then that really warm air mass heading up through Monday and Tuesday. I mean, if we were in sort of middle of summer, July, August time, I wouldn't be surprised to be seeing mid to high 20s, if not 30 degrees with an air mass this warm. And it does show you why, if we did get the right sort of pressure pattern, if we did get more of a high pressure influence, this would be sort of an Indian summer type pattern. But because it's more associated with the low pressure, cloud and rain, it will really only be pleasant for a few, maybe in the east, where we do escape cloud and rain. That low does eventually clear through, and we see that direct northerly 0-degree isotherm spreads through for pretty much all. -5 doesn't get quite as close, as that northerly is cut off, as we don't have as much northern blocking and not as much amplification. However, beyond that, low pressure just rumbles in off the Atlantic. No sign really of a Scandinavian high, And we just continue with this sort of northwesterly airflow with cooler conditions coming in from the North Atlantic with a lot of low pressure. Unsettled conditions, not feeling and not looking and feeling particularly pleasant. If we now have a look at the ECMWF, see how that does compare, you can see the colder air mass at the moment, and then we get that really warm air mass coming through early next week. And as that clears, northerly wind takes control. Because we're going to be in 24-hour intervals, you don't quite see it go into a direct northerly before the ridge does start to collapse through Friday into Saturday. But beyond that, it's just low pressure, a lot of westerly winds. Can see a lobe of the tropospheric polar vortex is up towards Siberia, and that is potentially a positive sign for anything a little bit colder, as if that was towards Greenland, it'd be fueling these low pressure systems, whereas it's further eastwards, it does mean it may allow application a bit more in the jet stream. So that's something to look at in the longer term. So if you do have a look at the ECMWF Ensembles, this does show us anomalies with red and orange showing higher pressure and sort of blues and purple showing lower pressure. You can see at the moment high pressure over the top of the at the moment, northern blocking up towards Greenland, and as we head towards the end of this week, you can see that direct northerly pretty much on all of the runs. A few going for a little bit more of a cut-off system, but majority going for northerly wind. Beyond that, you can see as we head towards day 10, you can see the majority of low pressure over top of the country, still some northern blocking, so jet stream shifted a bit further southwards, so a little bit cooler than normal, or than sort of average this time of year, but nothing particularly cold. Beyond that, we just really see a lot of low pressure around. A few ensemble members having high pressure build in, the majority just have a westerly pattern, potentially high pressure and northern blocking up towards northern Canada, which is something that does coincide with the stratospheric warming we're seeing at the moment. And again, check out my video from yesterday at the winter outlook, or the winter look ahead, where we go into more detail about that. So that's something we may be seeing towards day 14, and right towards the end of the run, seeing a lot of low pressure around. Again, a quarter of ensemble members have higher air pressure, but it's not a particularly strong signal. The majority, including the control run, all going for big low pressure. Still some high pressure and locking on some of these runs towards Greenland and northern Canada, which would shift the jet stream a bit further southwards in the middle of the Atlantic. And it could give us a pattern we're seeing at the moment with a really warm sector and then followed a couple of days later by a really quite cold northerly wind. And that's something we could be seeing repeating through the end of October. But it doesn't look particularly warm, doesn't look really cold, but it doesn't look particularly doesn't look particularly stormy either, just sort of in between with a mix of all of it, where we could see some colder days, maybe some warmer days like early next week, and we could see a few stormier days here or there. No real distinct pattern, as we're seeing these lows sort of alternate with high pressure, a big amplified jet stream. So if we finally, for the longer term outlook, have a look at the GFS ensemble, which you can see at the moment we've got the colder air mass. Not really cold in London, simply because that cold front really did weaken. We only have sort of marginally colder than average air. We do see that big rise in temperatures to around 12, 13 degrees at 850 HPA. A good sort of 5 to 10 degrees above average, feeling really quite warm. And then we see the big cold front sweep through initially as the low spreads through back to around 2 or 3 degrees at 850 HPA before the northerly wind comes in. We do see a splitting of ensembles. All depends on what happens with that ridge towards Greenland, but the majority you can see are going around 0 or below, which would give pretty chilly conditions, and some even going colder than that, down to -5 or below, which would definitely mean there's potential for even an overnight frost in the south and some maybe really chilly conditions. Still a lot of precipitation around, so it doesn't look like anything particularly dry is coming up for the last third of October. You can see in the longer term a lot of scatter, some going quite warm, but others going quite chilly as well. So again, we can't take too much out beyond day 10, because of course we haven't resolved what's happening with this northerly towards the end of the week and how cold that air mass will be, and that all what happens with that blocking towards Greenland is really going to decide what we're going to be seeing in the longer term, of course. So just got to stay tuned really for what's going to happen in the end of October, what's going to be happening for Halloween. At this stage, doesn't look like it's going to be massive high pressure around, so can't guarantee anything dry at this stage. But we'll have to look at the details probably when we're about 7 days away. So probably in about 5, 6, 7 days time, we'll be able to have a much better outlook of what we'll be seeing. If we do have a look at the sea level pressure to give us an idea of the sort of the pressure charts, we can see at the moment reasonably high pressure, but it's not a massive high, as it sort of is a transient ridge. Lower pressure sweeping through as we see that low move through middle of next week, and we do see the northerly wind. Then higher pressure returns, but there's a lot of flip-flopping within the ensembles, and again, will all depend on the individual runs and what happens with the amplification of the jet stream, what the timings of these lows are. So we just got to take, of course, those with a pinch of salt, but they are generally around sort of in between pressure systems, but I would probably, having a look at the operational runs, definitely say it probably is going to be more unsettled than not. So if we do have a look at Glasgow to give us an idea of what we're going to be seeing further northwards, you can see at the moment pressure is lowering as the low pressure arrives early next week, Monday, Tuesday next week, and then we see a rise in pressure as we do start to see a ridge building as that low pressure starts to clear, bringing that northerly wind, and pressure does start to rise, and then pressure stays sort of in between high and low, of course, and that is because we see some ensemble members going for higher pressure dominating, but many sort of flip-flopping in between low and high, and again that sort of gives us this in-between sort of pattern. And similar for London, I do suspect it will be more unsettled than not, so it's going to probably going to be seeing a lot of rain around. And if we do have a look at the 850 HPA temperature precipitation, you can see that really well reflected. Pretty chilly at the moment with quite a cold air mass, good 5, 6, 7 degrees below average. Then we go maybe 5, 6, 7 degrees above average for the start of next week, and then we see a big drop off from 6, 7 degrees at 850 HPA down to -2, 3, 4, maybe even -5 degrees at 850 HPA. A big 10+ degree drop off. A lot of precipitation around. You can't rule out maybe some winteriness for some areas in Scotland. And then beyond that, temperatures are around average, again, with a lot of precipitation signals, so it's looking very unsettled. So if we finally do go through the UK Met Office run, you can see at the moment we have got very minimal showers around, a few in Scotland, but you can see as we head towards Saturday evening, low pressure is arriving. Doesn't look like it's going to be particularly heavy for the south, especially for parts of Wales, England. There could be some heavier pulses in there, but it does look like the weather front will degrade away through Sunday afternoon and into Monday. More low pressure arrives, and then by Tuesday, once again, more heavy rain down in the south as this low does start to sweep through. If we have a look at the max temperatures, you can see this afternoon, pretty chilly. Max temperatures maybe 14, 15 degrees in the far south, maybe 17 degrees just in the far southwest, but many areas in the north, parts of Northern Ireland, Northern England, majority of Scotland really struggling around 8, 9, maybe 10 degrees. Overnight tonight could be seeing a widespread frost potentially in some areas in Scotland, maybe even into Northern England, maybe Northern Ireland in a few spots, and even down into the Midlands and East Anglia we could see temperatures dropping close to freezing. Now beyond that into Saturday afternoon, temperatures starting to pick up in the south as we do see warmer air coming up, maybe 16, 17 degrees, but still in Scotland chilly in mid-single digits. By Sunday afternoon, we're seeing temperatures maybe 16, 17 degrees in the far south, still a little bit chilly further north, but all areas are slowly rising. And by Monday afternoon, you can see temperatures potentially 18 degrees in London, and again, all depends on precipitation amounts. And by Tuesday afternoon, maybe 19 or 20 degrees is possible in the east, where we do escape the rain and cloud, as we really do have very mild air coming up. Now, of course, it's not going to feel like that everywhere, because under the cloud and rain, it will feel a good few degrees cooler. But many areas, it will probably feel a little bit muggy. And if you are in that sunshine, it could feel pretty warm. But by the end of the week, as we've been seeing in this video, a northerly wind may be coming back in, bringing in much cooler air for all, and especially for Scotland. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.